all of the happenings in DC and my recent discussions on money, financial literacy, and some investing, I wanted to record a short discussion on federal careers. So I'm going to talk about that in this video. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar. The title of this video is a discussion on careers working in the federal government, or it's going to be some iteration of that. I need to get this video done in less than 28 minutes, as that's the amount of time that's left on my memory card. So I don't want to belabor this whole thing. Please like the video. Please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Before I jump into this video, I want to say that once again, this video is now this channel now has more of a general focus, and it's going to, in large part, discuss education topics, money, financial literacy, and some of the topics from my blogging platform, the Big Words blog site. And it's going to be a bit of a everything channel, as I described in my video about the Bruce Williams show and how it impacted me and inspired me. The other thing I want to say is that I realize that my content is not for everyone, nor is my presentation style. So if my content and or my presentation style is not for you, then that's okay. And you don't have to be here. You don't have to watch. Everything on YouTube is not for everybody. So with that, let's jump in. So one of the focuses, or should I say some of the focuses of my blogging platform, the Big Words blog site, are education, careers, and financial literacy and money. So I think this video is going to address all three, and I'm going to talk about federal careers and what it means to work in the federal government on the civilian level. And yeah, I mean, there are multiple aspects to working in the federal government. There are our elected officials, and then there are the people on the ground doing the work. And unfortunately, by nature of this whole thing, our elected officials get the majority of the press. So, and I'm going to keep this general. I'm not going to say I do work in the public sector, and I'm not going to go into the specifics of what I do and where I work in this video. I want to keep it general, as the focus is careers. And much of what I'm going to say is actually available online. So you can find a lot of this information online. I'm just kind of packaging it together and in this video for viewers and those who are interested. So the only real job I've ever had has been in the public sector, in the federal government. I've written 3 blog posts on the Big Words blog site on federal careers and what it means to, and what it's like to work in the federal government. I think one was on the government shutdown from about 7 years ago. I think one was on the myth of stability of being a federal employee, and one was on the general schedule, and all 3 of these I'm going to touch upon in this video. But the links to those blog posts are going to be in the description box below. So I'm going to use those blog posts as talking points, and I'm going to start with stability and what I've learned about stability as it relates to being a federal employee, civilian federal employee down on the ground level. And once again, being in the general service as a civilian is different than being an elected official. So in terms of stability, one of the myths or one of the thoughts about being a federal employee is involves stability. There's a pop-up here on my computer. Stability. So the thought process is that the government always works and the government always moves along and does what it does every day in serving the people, and that those jobs never go away. That's not entirely true. I've heard of something from some of my more senior peers that there is a such thing as a RIF, a reduction in force, where parts of the federal workforce can actually be downsized. So that can happen. It hasn't happened in my time as a federal employee. There's also the belief that federal employees can't be fired, similar to tenured professors at universities. And I would say that that's a partial truth. Federal employees can be let go for any number of reasons, but it usually has to be something really, really bad. There usually has to be something illegal that's happened, and there usually has to be there's a whole process for which a federal employee is relieved of their duties. So it's not like in the private sector where they can just, boom, cut you loose. There's a long process that's usually involved with federal employees. So, but in general, you're not going to see, for example, in the private sector, when a company is going through a reorganization, a company like Coca-Cola, for example, a private company can just slash whole divisions at will if they need to get back into the black for their shareholders and for the overall health of the company. In the government, you kind of don't see that. So there is a level of stability, but it's not 100%. And you also, depending upon what's happening over on Capitol Hill and the White House, there is the potential for a shutdown, which there's always uncertainty because for the offices that are affected, the paychecks and the pay for the employees are cut off temporarily, and it's not always clear if the employees are going to get paid back for the time they weren't working. They're usually not involved in whatever caused the shutdown, but the employees are caught in the middle, and one question is always, are we going to get paid back for the time that we missed for this, whatever this is that we did not cause? So stability is kind of, it's not 100%. The general schedule. So what is the general schedule? And I wrote a whole blog post on this. The general schedule is it's the way federal employees are paid. So this is online. This is not, I'm not giving away some sort of confidential secret here. This is all online. If you Google it, and you can pull it down. So it's a delineation of how federal employees are paid. So starting at GS1, that's the lowest, you're going up to GS15, which is the highest. And there are rules and stipulations and statutes for how one is promoted through that schedule. Employees are brought in depending upon their experience level and their education level at different parts of that schedule. You could be brought in at a 10, you could be brought in at an 11, you could be brought in at a 12. And then again, there are different nuances and caveats to how you ascend in that schedule if you desire to, and even if you can. A lot of federal employees have to move geographically, particularly here to the DC area, to get their promotion or their 14 or whatever it is they're looking for, because the opportunities are more robust here versus where their whichever locale they come from. So a lot of people move just to get the promotions and they move back. So what's interesting in terms of the general schedule is that it isn't always dependent upon education level. So I'm a scientist, I have my PhD, and I have a research background. And one of the caveats, or one thing you see with the general schedule, is that you can have a person with a PhD making the same amount of money as a person who does not have a PhD. And the person, the person with the PhD might get in and get that 13 or 14 position faster than the person who doesn't have that same training. But over time, the person without that same training, depending upon how long they were in, they can get to that 13 or 14 position. Why does this matter? Who cares? Well, for some people, it's actually a little bit insulting to make the same amount of money as someone with a lower level of education. And I experienced that I'm a scientist and I have a PhD, and I've had colleagues who had PhDs, and some of them got caught on the communal system, the government communal system. You can also have a supervisor or a division leader or division director who is of lesser education than you are. And it's just about time, and it's just about being promoted and who's pulling you up through the ranks, and those kinds of things. So it's not, in short, it's not all based upon your education level and your academic credentials. That is your ascension up the general schedule. And then above the highest level is GS-15, and then above that is the SES, or the Senior Executive Service, and then above that are our elected officials. Let's see. In terms of promotions, I just kind of talked about that. It's not, every office is different. There are several agencies, several offices, several departments, and legions of supervisors and division directors, and those kinds of things. And every agency and every office has a different culture. I mean, we're still, in theory, we're all playing by the same government rule set, but the way in which people are promoted, depending upon who you talk to, it's going to be very, very different. Some would say it's in part your academic credentials. Some would say it's who likes you and who's pulling you up, who's championing your career and your cause. And some would say it's a mixture between the two. Also, you could throw in there your experience level. You could throw in there, which projects you've been allowed to work on. And it's a number of things that impacts your potential. Sometimes it's moving out of the office you were in into another office. Sometimes it's moving and changing cities. So there are numerous factors as a federal employee that impact your being promoted, if that's what you want to do. Let's see. Benefits. There are several benefits for being a federal employee, or should I say when being a federal employee. Just a couple are the Family Care and Leave Act. I think I described that name properly. The government, as a federal employee, there are provisions for you to take care of your relatives, your parents, or your significant other if they get sick. There are provisions for you taking absences from work if necessary for those purposes. Teleworking and or working remotely. Some offices allow employees to work remotely from home if the work is portable and if there is a level of trust between management and staff. That's another huge perk. Some offices allow their employees to work a compressed schedule where you work 8 9-hour days and 1 8-hour day so that you have a 3-day weekend every other weekend. That's a huge benefit and a very helpful one as well. And then there's our retirement savings plan, the thrift savings plan, or the TSP for short. And that's depending upon if you're contributing to it the way you're supposed to, and if you can't contribute to it the way you're supposed to, you can have a very comfortable retirement. And if I can find this article, I'll leave it in the description box below. One of the things my mentor hammered home to me was that many federal employees have retired millionaires, and that's because they have saved religiously and saved regularly into their retirement accounts, getting the matching 5% and above. And many federal employees have been able to retire as millionaires. And so you can do that as well as a federal employee if that's what you choose to do, and if that's what you want to do. And then finally, I'm going to talk about actually getting hired. So again, getting hired into the general service as a civilian employee is different than becoming a part of the senior executive service, and that's different. Those are both different than becoming elected officials. Usually when you apply to become a federal employee, you apply through USA Jobs, and you have to do something called the CERT, where you answer specific questions so that human resources can get a gauge for whether or not you should be in the pool for consideration. That's a whole separate topic in itself, and there are very specific ways in which you have to tailor your resume to be able to get in the pool. So that's a whole, I can make a whole video just on that. In some instances, there are preferences given to military veterans, and also there are preferences given to groups like the Peace Corps to get into government agencies to become federal employees. And a lot of it's who you know, and a lot of it's what the particular need is at that time, and even if there's money to hire people, and that's something that spills over into the private sector as well. It all goes back to money. So with that, I'm going to conclude this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I haven't shared anything in this video that's confidential, and this is all, you can all find this stuff online or via word of mouth. Being a federal employee is very interesting. Some people are born into families and have legacies of being federal employees, and some people are raised in this culture. I can make the argument that being a federal employee is a culture, and there are whole families that aspire to be in the civilian service and to become division directors and cabinet members to presidents, and going on Capitol Hill. There are people who are groomed and raised to do these things from a very early age, and it's a whole culture all in itself. So as I've learned, one idea spawns another, so you may see other videos on this once I upload it and think about it, and think about what I've said, and think about other videos that can come from this. But in the meantime, once again, let me know if you have any comments or questions in the comment section below. Please like the video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. And always remember, once again, that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.